Meet Joseph Merrick, most commonly known by his Victorian freak show stage name, the Elephant Man. Today I'm going to tell you about his life, which was plagued with tragedy and maltreatment. Joseph Merrick was born in 1862 in Leicester, England. He was born a healthy baby, but by 1866, when he was 4, his appearance began to change. A tumor presented itself on his lip, which then spread across his face. This eventually led to a speech impediment and Joseph's inability to show facial expressions. A bony lump emerged on his forehead, as well as extra flesh on the back of his neck. The weight on the back of his neck prevented him from lying down to sleep, so he slept upright. His right arm and feet grew rapidly, and his skin became a tough and pitted texture. In addition to this, Joseph also injured his hip as a child, which caused an infection that permanently hindered his mobility. Joseph was subject to bullying in school and practically everywhere he went, but he felt very comfortable and loved by his mom, to whom he was very close with. At age 11, Joseph's mom passed away from pneumonia, what Merrick described as, quote, the greatest misfortune of his life, quote. With the loss of his mother, the bullying became too much to bear, so Joseph quit school. From age 13 to 16, he worked at a cigar rolling shop, eventually quitting due to increased difficulty completing responsibilities. He then went on to sell goods from his father's shop door to door. Unfortunately, he wasn't very successful, so this frustrated his father. His dad ended up severely beating him, which caused him to leave home permanently. He drifted in and out of jobs and homelessness. He eventually felt he had no choice but to join a freak show in order to sustain a living. In 1884, he secured a gig as a traveling act known as the Elephant Man, quote, half a man, half an elephant, quote. That same year, he went to work for Tom Norman, an East London shop owner who displayed human oddities. He then became an exhibit to which people visited. He was given an iron bed with a curtain for privacy and was displayed in the back of a vacant shop. Norman stood outside and invited all to visit Joseph, marketing him as the Elephant Man who was, quote, not here to frighten you, but to enlighten you, quote. One day, Dr. Frederick Treves of the London Hospital, which was located just across the street, visited Joseph and asked to take him in for examination. After a few visits, Dr. Treves sent him on his way and gave him his calling card. At this point, freak shows were falling out of favor in England due to morality and decency concerns, so police started forcing shops such as Norman's to close. So, Joseph's managers sent him to work in Belgium where there were more lenient laws. When Joseph arrived in Belgium, his new area manager stole all of his money and abandoned him. He became homeless in a foreign place, but eventually he was able to make his way back to London. When he got back, he wandered the streets asking for donations so he could gather enough money to go back to his hometown. Crowds surrounded him as if he was some kind of attraction, so police eventually detained him. When they were trying to identify who Joseph was, they found Dr. Treves' calling card on him. Dr. Treves immediately picked up Joseph and took him in at the hospital. At this point, Joseph was 24 years old, and after examining him, Treves believed he wouldn't live much longer. The chairman of the hospital committee wrote an editorial in the Times newspaper asking for the public to help in finding Joseph a permanent place to live. The hospital received so many donations that they were able to afford to care and provide for him for the rest of his life. 2 rooms in the hospital basement were set up just for Joseph, featuring access to the courtyard. The room also did not have any mirrors. Dr. Treves visited Joseph every day. He originally believed that Joseph had limited mental capacity, but soon realized he was actually quite intelligent. Dr. Treves got to know Joseph not just as a patient, but as a friend. He learned of Joseph's mom, the only woman that didn't cower at the sight of him. He wanted to change this, so he arranged for Layla, a nice young lady, to come meet Joseph. She smiled and shook his hand. Joseph became very emotional as it was one of the only times in his life where he felt normal. He was actually treated like a human being. After 3 years under hospital care, Joseph passed away. A hospital employee found him dead on his bed on April 11, 1890. He was just 27 years old. The autopsy revealed that he died from asphyxia and suffered a dislocated neck because he tried to sleep lying down. His skeleton was preserved at the Royal London Hospital as a scientific specimen. His soft tissue was buried in an unmarked grave at the City of London Cemetery and Crematory. Today, many scientists speculate his condition was the result of a rare disease known as Proteus Syndrome. However, this is not entirely certain. May Joseph now rest in peace.